Said, "Oh, lady, let me teach you anything. I told her I'll never go. She said, me too, honey, see you're the one for me. Told her I'm a virgin. She said, "Oh, lady, let me teach you anything. I told her I'll never go."
I'm excited. I'm excited. Welcome to the Be Fit for Business podcast. I am super excited because we have a dope special guest on the show today. I know her as Toya, but you guys are going to be introduced to her as Dr. Latoya Gaines.
Yes.
Shout out to Dr. Latoya Gaines, who is a licensed mental health therapist from Culture of Wellness of Psychological Services.
Yes.
And she is definitely so dope. I've known Toya since we were in high school. She was an upperclassman or whatever. But yes, Toya was a year older than me, but our families have known each other like
Oh my
our
gosh.
whole entire life.
Yes.
So it's so dope to see you walking in your gift, knowing you come from an amazing stock. You are living your dream.
I am.
You are living your dream, and I love to see it.
Yeah.
So because of that, I definitely had to bring you on the show. Something super important that we have to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Mental health, right? It's a big thing, right? It's always been a big thing, but it's been really like nailed in the past few years.
Yep.
I have you here today so we could talk about mental health and entrepreneurship. Speaking personally for myself, it's a roller coaster of a ride.
Yes.
You're a full-time now entrepreneur too, so you know what time it is.
Girl.
Like, oh God, I know sometimes they be like the therapists need therapy.
They do. They do. Listen.
Because it's not easy. It's not easy. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about like your path, what led you here, and we'll get right into it.
Sure. So I actually started, I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay,
I
I can see that. And your mama a teacher.
Exactly. So I was not going into mental health at all. But when I got to undergrad, I took my first psychology class. And I was
Ooh.
like, what is this?
Okay.
This is so interesting.
Okay.
And so then, as I went on through school and stuff, I learned about school psychology.
Okay.
And that you could be a psychologist in the schools.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Get 2 and 1.
Yes.
Okay.
But the training that I got did not fully prepare me for what I saw in Patterson Public Schools.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh, so you were a social worker or
A psychologist.
a psychologist. Oh, wow. And
Yep.
okay.
In the elementary and middle schools in Patterson. And when I got there, I knew, I felt good about sort of testing for learning disabilities and stuff like that. But what I was seeing and didn't have the language for was trauma. I did not understand it. I was like, what is going on here? Because, it's not that they can't learn. It's not that they don't have the skills. And there's something else emotionally happening that I don't have the language for. So I went back to school for clinical psych.
Okay.
Got my doctorate in clinical psych.
Awesome.
Worked in a variety of different settings, university counseling centers,
Awesome.
hospitals, community mental health centers. And then I opened up my own private practice in 2019.
Love that. So, guys, make sure that if you are looking for a clinical, licensed mental health therapist, make sure that you see Dr. Gaines. She's so amazing, always so great at being neutral. But I know that through other stuff. But yes, so again, like as we address mental health, like we could talk about some of the things that even entrepreneurs go through. As obviously, you starting your own business. I own my own business. Shout out to Be Fit and Focus, your local juice company. It's not an easy role, and I always kind of tell people it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
Right? I have been depressed myself, extremely anxious, and I still kind of go through some of those feelings. Not like they don't lead in my life anymore after going through my own set of therapy and stuff like that. But those things are real because first of all, you have the pressure of managing something on your own. You don't have anybody to blame when it's not going right. It's just you in the mirror writing down what it is that you need to do to regulate this thing, right?
Exactly.
And do you find that like in mental health that like even not for yourself, but like that's like truly a challenge, like right for you even too, right? You don't know to know that you have to run something, right? Already a lot on your plate.
Absolutely.
On top of running that, is to make sure that it's your livelihood so that you're taking care of yourself. I'm a mom of 2 kids, so like my business depends on whether my children eat and a roof over our head and a car to drive, all of those different things. Like it's real and it's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
So like what would you tell entrepreneurs like when they're facing like these different types of pressures and like different ways to cope? Like as you know they take on their journey.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned coping because that's got to be the first thing. You have to have a set of coping skills because one thing is not going to always work. Right. So I tell all of my clients, like, you have to have certain things set up for certain times, certain scenarios, and stuff like that. So that's the first thing. You got to have a variety. The second thing is, I know you talk a lot about having a tribe. You got to have a tribe. You
Support
have to have
system. Yes.
You have to have a tribe of other entrepreneurs that know what it's like. Because you can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family, you can even talk to your therapist. You know, they may be an entrepreneur too, but it's so important to have people that understand really what it's like when, you know, you looking at the numbers.
Yes, crunching them, yes.
And it's like, ooh, am I going to hit my goal? Am I not going to hit my goal? Am I going to be able to make things meet? You know? So it's really important to have that put in place also. It's also important to recognize the signs for when you are starting to feel depressed or anxious. Because a lot of times we use coping skills when we're in it. When you're already sort of in the thick of the anxiety about, you know, what's going to happen this month, or you're already depressed because something didn't make it last month. But you have to recognize the signs because it's usually little things that are going along the way that you can do stuff to try and cope with it at that point because it's so much harder to dig yourself out of whatever you're experiencing when it's at the height. Right.
And what I can speak to, I know that leads to avoidance sometimes. It leads to like avoidance is a big one. And meltdowns, just anger, right? Because you're more agitated because you really know what's going on. So that's why, like you said, a tribe is definitely important. I always kind of tell people that too, like as much as me and my brother are 2 different people, love him to death, but he has a different path than I do, right? So he's an officer. I am an entrepreneur. So it's hard for me to walk up to like my brother or like my family where I'm like, hey, yeah, I got to make sure I make at least $500 today. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you get what I'm saying? Because that's a different language. So support is absolutely important. Like, because you're frustrated when you're working with the public. Not all entrepreneurs, but a lot of entrepreneurs, if you have some type of business or you own something, you're servicing some type of customer. So even those frustrations that may come with that sometimes, or just the pressure of trying to deliver what it is that you're selling to that person under any role, whether it's a service, a product, that's overwhelming. Like, you get what I'm saying? I know a lot of people face challenges in the pandemic. Remember last year, even people like with product businesses, resources were so low. Remember how long it was taking for people to get their packages? So you may order something, but even Amazon, the biggest place in the world or country, whatever, was having delays, and you can't get your stuff for like 4 and 5 weeks. So those type of things are pressure. Like, you know what I mean? And I do try to tell people, I'm no licensed therapist, but I know what I've had to do, like writing things down, taking one step at a time, like so that I don't feel like overwhelmed, and knowing when to rest.
Absolutely.
Right? Because rest is essential. Like, I'm not one of those people that believe in no days off and no dreamers don't sleep, and we don't, but we do. Like everybody have to. Everybody like, Amber, when do you sleep? I seem like every time I come on social media, you there. I'm like, listen, I get up super early in the morning, so I've already wrote hat for my post already for the day. Y'all just commenting on that stuff all day. By like 1 to 3 p.m., that is my designated nap time. Shout out to my friends because they know not to call me. That's my rule. Please don't call me during my nap time, or girl, I'm taking a nap. They know what time it is. So like even things like that, like just practice, like. And shout out to what I just said, right? Boundaries. A big one. Boundaries and entrepreneurship. Telling people no. And then, well, I can't say that they're going to be okay with it.
They might not, but that's not on you, though.
Exactly.
Their reaction is about them.
Absolutely. Okay, Toya. So next time somebody come for me, excuse me, this reaction is about you. It's not about me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like, you know, like the pressures and stuff like that. A lot of people, even with the pandemic, were going through like depression and anxiety, not kind of knowing where they would be business wise, how much longer their business will last. Even still, like I keep trying to tell, like while we're progressing in the pandemic, these things are still alive. Like the economy is not good.
Right.
It's not. It's really hard. Like I know for me right now, like my business gets very slow during a certain period of the year. So
Absolutely.
that's pressure. Like it's like, okay, what do I have to do? Make sure I do, like, you know what I'm saying? I hit my goals and stuff like that. And seriously, like things like that is what make me go to therapy and ask my therapist, like, okay, like how do I manage this? Because this comes because it like to be like a testy time for me. And like she says, like some of the things you said, coping and kind of knowing that that period of time is coming up. So it's not like, okay, Amber, you've been here before. Kind of reflect back on what some of the things you did when you were here before. You know what I'm saying? And just handle them and manage them different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And a lot of being an entrepreneur is about self-awareness too, because you are
self-awareness. Yes, right.
So you gotta be self-aware, and part of being self-aware is knowing about your business too, and how you are at certain points in times when business is up or when business is down, right? And so in those slow periods, are you anticipating? Are you making provisions for that point in time, both financially but also mentally, also spiritually, also physically? Those are all things you have to keep in mind because, like you said, business does ebb and flow, and so you want to be prepared for that.
What would you say to somebody who needs to find balance, right? Because sometimes entrepreneurship causes things to suffer. Personally, me, like at the time that I was building my business, I was going through a separation and then led to a divorce. Like, so those type of things happen too while you're following your dreams. Like, so what would you recommend for somebody to do, like to balance life, right? Because yes, you want to give your all in all to your business, but how do you balance that with maybe being like a mom or being a dad and again, full throttle into the business, but you may be neglecting other people or things in that. Like, what would you say to that?
I think, again, it goes back to self-awareness and understanding what's pulling you into those certain things, right? So what's causing you to maybe neglect this aspect of your life to focus on this? Is it avoidance? Is it something that you really don't want to deal with? So you throw yourself into this aspect of your life. And now why is that? And then how can we address that? So I think it's important to be aware of those things, you know, as they're happening.
Okay.
And in terms of boundaries, the other thing to understand is that boundaries are for you. They're for other people, but they're certainly for you.
To honor yourself, right?
Right. And you determine where they are, and boundaries can be really, really far out so that people don't have much access to you, or they can be pulled in and they can change over time.
Yes.
So it's not something that's fixed. It can be fluid based on what you allow.
I love that you said that too, because I remember I read this book by Dr. Darius Daniels. It's called Relational Intelligence. Have you ever read that book?
No, but I feel like you post about it a lot.
A lot. I'm telling you, because that book had changed me. No, seriously, it really changed my life. And something that you said, like understanding that things change over time and everything isn't an announcement, right? Because like even like I've suffered in areas of friendship, family, relationship as being an entrepreneur, because it's like sometimes to explain to some that I am so focused on my goals, right? That it's going to require less of me to you in this season, because it doesn't mean that it's going to be like this forever, but right now is the time that I need to dedicate to this. And communication, I think is a big thing. Yes. But sometimes that's hard too, because communicating takes two, right? Yes. I can tell you something, but you could be like, well, wait, you know, so then that becomes like a frustrating part of it. But something that you said, boundaries are like extremely serious. Like, and I know that my relationships, even with friendships, have changed over time. Like, yeah, we might have talked on the phone like every day over like months, but I can't do that right now because I'm dived into what it is that I need to work on in this season. And this is my busier season. One rule that I have with my friends and my family, I don't like phone calls on Sunday.
Okay.
Huge for me.
Okay.
I tell them that. I'm like, and they all respect it. Thank God. Shout out to my friends. They know. And even like sometimes they could even see I'm being short or not snippy, but just short. Like they know what time it is. Like, and I love that they respect that. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Or even if they're telling me something quick, I'm not gonna be like, oh, don't, whatever. But Sunday is hard for me to talk. I am processing a bunch of orders, making, that's my production day that I do for my juices. So I really can't talk like that. My hands are wet. I've got gloves on. It's too much. I'm trying to focus on a goal to make sure that everything is done so I could get my driver out. It's a very stressful day. Yes. Even in dating, I've had to tell people that I've dated, like, I don't like company on Sundays. That's just a Sunday, and Monday is like a day that I really just need to reset. Yep. And that's not easy telling people, and a lot of people probably would need to practice that. Like, you get what I'm saying? And not being wonder like, okay, this person's feelings going to hurt. I think somebody's feelings would be more hurt that they're around you, you're crabby, you're nasty, you're short, rather than saying, hey, right now, just not a good time for me. Like, you get what I'm saying? So, like, these are some real challenges that entrepreneurs face, like, because it's different. You're not working in a fixed environment, a fixed time, where it's like, okay, I go to this job, I sit here from 9 to 5, you could call my work phone. Nah, like, it's everybody's life, you know what I'm saying, isn't designed like that. I typically just don't like phone calls and stuff like that too, because it just drives up my anxiety. And it makes me unfocused. Like, I'd rather just maybe listen to soft music. I may listen to like church. I might listen to like gospel, like things that are really mellowed out that day, because I'm already in a stressful and productive environment. So I mean, over time, that's what I found, just to be honest and communicate like about like how I feel. Yeah, because what happens when you don't is you set up a situation to become resentful of that person. Oh, yes. They calling me every Sunday. I told them to stop this. Yes. Right. And then ultimately, when that resentment builds up, the relationship crumbles. And that's not good for, either one of you, especially if the person doesn't know, right? The person is just doing what they think is okay because you haven't communicated the boundary. Okay, Zoya, thank you. Let me know. I'm really working on these things and getting better as best as I can. And then sometimes too, I think entrepreneurship may push you into a season where, like, you know how we spoke about tribes, how you may be closer to certain people than you are maybe the family, to like people that you've been close to your whole life, because in those seasons, those are probably the people, like you said, we can relate to more, that I could kind of talk to more, understand more. Like, how do you manage stuff like that, right? When your friendships change, things start looking different from one person to the next. I know you said boundaries and it's the other person's fault, but what do you recommend like entrepreneurs to do to communicate that to people that they love? Yeah, the hardest part about communication is just telling your truth. A lot of people just have a hard time telling the truth because of the fear of how the other person is going to react. But what I like to tell people is check out the foundation of that relationship. Is it strong enough to handle your truth? Most times it is. Most times it is. If that person is really close to you, you guys have an intimate relationship, and I don't mean sexual, just somebody close. Right. Usually it can handle the truth of like, listen, this is what I'm dealing with, so, I may be a little bit distant. We may not be able to go to brunch every Sunday like we used to, but that doesn't mean I'm not here. Like, if you need something, I got you. But, all my focus is on X, Y, Z right now. And I found that with me too. Like, I have my friends that I've had since high school, college, or whatever, but sometimes I want to talk to my psychologist friends. Yeah. Because they just get it. And that doesn't take anything away from my other friends, but they just don't understand. And there's just some things that they're not going to be able to relate to. Right. And that's okay. Right. Absolutely. Like, it's like worth the conversation, because a lot of people just really don't know where to begin in those type of things, where it's just like, oh my God, I'm neglecting this, I'm neglecting that. All these great things like around me are falling apart, but my business is maybe like doing good. Like, you get what I'm saying? And I've had to learn that and manage my own mental health. Like I said, there was 2019, probably the worst year of my life. Yeah. Worst year of my life. Lost my store, didn't have a place to live, sacrificed so much financially, ended up moving back home. Like, I went through a lot of great changes in like a 9-month span.
Wow.
It was really enough to drive somebody crazy. Like, seriously, like, it was a lot of stuff, but I just had this relentless fight to get myself out of where I fell into. And it did require it required a little bit of isolation. It required a lot of discipline, because discipline is very important, especially when we're even talking mental health or whatever, because like not having it can make things look like you don't have it. And it's not even image driven, it's just period. Like, you know what you do, like your actions are going to produce some sort of outcome. And just get discipline, a little isolation, like serious about my goals, writing down everything that I need to do, and just like coming back and re-strategizing. Like, that takes a lot of strength to do. Like, I literally wanted to quit. Like, and I thank God that I didn't, because it led me here. Shout out to the Business Podcast. So it led me to this. So it led me to this space or whatever. So because of that, I know that, you have to keep pushing. You have to like really get your mental health in check. I highly recommend entrepreneurs to go to therapy.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying this because it's like a thing to say. It's the thing to do. I recommend it for everybody anyway. But entrepreneurs, you are under super stressful environments, goals that you may be giving yourself that require a lot of pressure. Again, some people have teammates, some people don't. So you're all the pressure lies on you, right? So please see a therapist. And if you're looking for a therapist, please see Dr. Latoya Gaines. And Dr. Latoya Gaines, how can anyone get in touch with you if they're ever looking to see someone, talk to someone? You're not alone. Listen, if you need help, please seek help. You don't have to even reach out to me to get in touch with Dr. Latoya Gaines. Her information will be on the screens, and you can also follow her information. I'll make sure that I post this information so that you have somebody to talk to. You don't have to go to your friend and tell them that you need a therapist. Just go get the help that you need. And how can anyone get in touch with you if they're looking for your services?
Yeah, so you can go to my website.
Okay.
www.cultureofwellnessllc.com.
Okay.
And through the website, you can send me an email.
Okay.
It goes directly to me, so nobody else will see it.
Awesome.
Private, confidential.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And do you offer virtual services in person?
Yes.
Okay.
So because of COVID, we are still doing all telehealth.
Okay,
sessions.
Great. Okay, great.
And the other thing to mention is I also work with a team of other Black therapists.
Oh, yes. I love that. I love that. I love that. So now, when they go to your website, are those other therapists?
Those other therapists are on the website also.
Okay, so great. Yep. So your business is compiled of a team of you and how many other therapists?
5.
Oh, listen, y'all got options. Hey, y'all got options. So yes, entrepreneurs, my word of advice to you, please take care of your health.
Absolutely.
Mentally, physically, financially, all of those different things. It all matters. At the end of the day, you cannot produce a great business without you being in check.
Yes.
It was so great having you, Dr. Gaines.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
When we stop rolling, but it was so great to have you. Thank you so much for coming here, shedding light on what we need help with. Y'all make sure that y'all reach out to Dr. Gaines. Thank you.
Thank you.